I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you're trapped. Your arm is crushed by a boulder, you are completely and utterly alone, and not a single person on Earth knows where you are. You can scream all you want, no one's going to hear you. You can wait, but no one is coming. Now, this isn't some scene from a horror movie. This was the reality for Aron Ralston. Let's dive into his unbelievable story of survival.
So, picture this. It's April 2003. For Aron Ralston, who is a really experienced adventurer, this was just supposed to be another trip. A chance to get out there, push his limits, and just enjoy the solitude of the incredible Utah wilderness. But then, in the blink of an eye, that adventure twisted into an absolute nightmare. One single terrifying moment, and everything changed. What came next was an ordeal that stretched on for more than 5 days. We're talking 127 hours, an amount of time that would test the absolute limits of what a human being can endure. So how on earth does a seasoned outdoorsman, a guy who knows what he's doing, end up in a situation this desperate? Well, it all came down to one fateful mistake. And that's the thing. You gotta understand, Aron Ralston wasn't some rookie. This guy was a skilled adventurer. He loved the thrill of exploring these remote places all by himself. He understood the risks, or at least he thought he did, when he set out on another solo trip into the canyons of Utah. And here it is. This was the critical error. Such a simple thing, right? But not telling a single person his plans, where he was going, that decision completely removed his only safety net. And it almost cost him his life. So, with absolutely no one aware of his location, his adventure was about to turn into a brutal fight for survival, and it happened in just a matter of seconds. He was exploring a place called Blue John Canyon. It's one of those incredibly remote, narrow slot canyons. I mean, they're stunningly beautiful, but they are also notoriously unforgiving. The very same tight spaces that make them so cool to explore also make them a perfect trap. So as he's climbing down, this massive boulder he was bracing against just dislodged. It came loose, and in a split second, it fell, taking him with it, and it slammed his right arm, pinning it against the solid canyon wall. He was stuck, completely and totally trapped.
Now, being physically trapped was, believe it or not, only the beginning. The real ordeal, the true test, was the battle that was about to start raging inside his own mind.
I mean, of course he tried everything to move that rock, but it was no use. The fight quickly changed. With hardly any food, even less water, and being in total isolation, his greatest enemies weren't rock and gravity anymore. They were fear, dehydration, and a creeping, crushing despair. And you can just see how quickly things went downhill. Day 1, he's frantic, right? He's fueled by adrenaline and hope. But by day 2, that hope starts to fade because his water runs out. That is a massive turning point. By the 4th day, the dehydration is so bad that he starts to hallucinate, blurring that line between what's real and what's a nightmare. And then on day 5, believing the end was here, he pulled out his camcorder and started recording goodbyes to his family. But right as all hope seemed to be gone, something else kicked in, something primal, an unbelievable raw will to live that was about to push him to do the unthinkable. After 5 days, the terrifying realization finally hit him. No one was coming. If he stayed pinned to that wall, he was going to die there. So, what choice did he really have? There was only one way out, an impossible, horrifying choice that most of us just can't even begin to imagine. He had to amputate his own arm to free himself. And you have to understand, this wasn't some panicked, crazy act. It was a calculated, methodical decision. He first had to deliberately break the bones in his own arm. Then, using this small, dull blade from a cheap multi-tool, he began the agonizing process of cutting through skin, muscle, and nerves. It took an hour. An hour. Then, he was free. But the nightmare wasn't over. He was weak, bleeding, and he still had to rappel 65 feet out of the canyon and then walk for miles before, miraculously, he ran into other hikers who called for rescue. So what do we even take away from something like this? Well, Aron Ralston survived, and his story is just one of the most profound lessons in human resilience you will ever come across. You can really look at this story in 2 ways. On the one hand, yeah, it's a story of incredible loss. He lost his arm, and his life was changed forever. But on the other hand, it's this unbelievable testament to the power of the human will. He didn't just passively survive. He made an active, brutal, conscious choice to live, no matter what it cost him.
Ultimately, his survival wasn't just about physical strength. It all came down to his mindset. The mental fortitude to stare into that abyss of pain and fear and just refuse to give in, that right there was the key to his escape. So his story really reveals three powerful truths. 1, a small mistake can have absolutely monumental consequences. 2, human endurance, both mental and physical, is just extraordinary, far beyond what we think we're capable of. And 3, when you're faced with the ultimate choice, the will to live can inspire you to do the unimaginable.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We talk about the will to live a lot like it's this abstract idea, but Aron Ralston's story forces us to confront what that phrase actually means, in its most raw, most extreme form. It makes you ask yourself, what lines would I cross to survive?